So much, JC. Welcome everyone to Atlanta Startup Convos. We miss meeting in person, but this is a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to share what they're working on to a wider audience that loves early stage technology and early stage adopters. And so it's still fun to really get in and have conversations with great people, just like that breakout as well. So thank you all for joining this morning. I see so many familiar faces. Michael, Hunter, it's great. DL, it's great to see everybody. Dave Watson, Twitter buds. So glad everyone can show up. The first presentation today, Ashley Richardson, great to have you. Ashley and I, we met probably, 2 months ago. You showed the product and you've got paying customers, Georgia State grad. And so you're well on your way to building the next $100 million business and honored to have you. So Ashley, feel free to take it away.
Thanks so much for having me, John. All right, so I'm so excited to share with you guys. I have a presentation. We can just go through. Let me see. All right, I'm guessing everyone can see my screen? Yes? Okay. Well, hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Ashley Richardson. I am founder and CEO of MyTotem. It is an all-in-one instant branding solution for small business owners. I started working on this idea at the beginning of 2020. It's been such a learning experience for one, and just being a business owner myself and dealing with having to brand my company and having to market it and just having to deal with budgets and just all the different other things that come with starting a company is what inspired MyTotem. So my team and I have over a combined experience, over a decade of experience in design, technology, and business. We work really closely together, and it's just been fun working on the idea and just like delivering our product to customers. So let's get a little bit into what we do. Over 91% of US businesses use social media. Social has the customer's attention right now, and especially during COVID, over 54% of social browsers use social media to research products before they buy. We're getting customers' attention for over 2 hours and 22 minutes each day. And most businesses know that, right? And so that's why they're investing over billions on social media advertisements each year. So this makes me look into why do businesses only post one time a month? Like we have this free social media platform to where we can reach more people than ever before. But we have to have content to be able to engage with our audiences and really build that following. And now more than ever, businesses understand, the importance of having an online presence, especially since we don't have that face-to-face interaction as much anymore with COVID. So the real question here is, will businesses adapt to being online, to having to build that strong online connection and presence? And that question is up in the air because most small businesses cannot afford professional design services of today. Most branding and marketing agencies charge over $6,000. They take over 5 to 6 weeks to complete projects. Graphic designers as well. And there are a lot of DIY design alternatives out there, like Canva, Poster My Wall, Adobe, to where you can develop content yourself, but that requires a massive time investment, minimal design expertise to have to manipulate layers on templates, and you also have to create your own pre-developed content strategy. So what we decided to do was create an entirely new creation model. so that we do the research of, content creation. We also do the research of content strategies and combine that with, your industry so that we can produce very impactful campaigns. So first, our technology learns your preferences, your aesthetic preferences. You let us know what parameters we're working within. And from there, we use our industry data, we use our design expertise to design and personalize marketing content for you and deliver it each month to your profile. Our users pay now $15 a month. If you don't have a brand already, you can pay $115 and we can generate branding recommendations for you. It's required to have a brand in order to do the marketing plan. So once we do that, we can go ahead and get you set up on the marketing automation and you're good to go. So as of now, we are raising $500,000 for a 12-month runway to acquire our first 10,000 active paid users. Our first 100 paid users actually came from about less than $10,000. We've really spread from word of mouth, organic marketing, and just, refining and iterating on our product and just making it better and better each day. So as of now, we've launched our MVP in February. Over the time of COVID, we've gained our first 100 paid users. Right now, we're working on our second version release, which would be way more automated content. And we just plan to continue to grow and improve on the product. And this is a quote from one of our customers today. We love using Totem to launch our new projects for 2020. We love helping our customers right now to refine on their content strategy and just learn and grow together. It's been a really fun process. But now I'm just gonna dive in and show you guys a little demo. So our product comes with a free trial for 14 days. 14 days. So when you sign up to the site, this is what you will land on. If you don't have a brand already, or even if you do have a brand, you do have to take our brand quiz so that we can fully understand, what aesthetic parameters we're working with. Because sometimes that varies with creating your content. So I'm just going to go through the quiz really quickly. So say I am Kate, and I am creating a new brand today for my jewelry business. I would go in, let me know what company name. All right, say I really like pink and purple, but I want to stay away from maybe salmon and gold, for instance. You let me know your favorite color style. These are just simple aesthetic questions. Let's see, I like bold. I want to stay away from clean. I'm struggling with this. Sorry, guys.
This is great.
Thanks. I'm struggling with the button. Okay. Shapes. So just try to stay as specific as possible. Even if you don't really have a preference, it's really helpful to just do the first thing that comes to your mind, right? So now you just sit back, wait for 5 to 7 days. And this was the improvement that I was mentioning, in a couple months, it'll be way faster, way more automated. But once we're ready for you, we will go ahead and send out recommendations to your account. You'll be notified. And from there, you have tons of options to choose from. So I'll just go on here, and these are specially curated based off of what works in my industry, what works with my target demographic, and what fully aligned with my aesthetic preferences that I chose earlier. If I like this brand, I can go ahead and check out with it, or I can request any changes that I need to make, and you can generate brands as many times as you need to. But say I go ahead and check out purchase with this brand, right? I can go ahead and get content recommendations. So I am fully set and ready to go to market on social media. And this branding and this aesthetic, this typography is used in all of your content. You get 16 content recommendations each month, and they're fully editable. You can download them straight and just post them on social media. But the main thing here is, like, it takes usually 2 hours each post to create these on Canva, and even more to create these on Photoshop. But having that kickstart, having at least a design basis to go off of, saves you over 99% of the time that you were to spend on Canva or Photoshop. And you also know and can rely that it's effective content. So that's what we have now. We're slowly but surely making improvements, and we hope that we can just continue to learn and grow and make feature improvements. And that's all I got. So go ahead, if you want to go ahead and sign up. This is open. You get a 14-day free trial. Or if you have any questions for me or just want to talk, my email is ashley@totemagency.co. And thank you so much for allowing me to present today.
Ashley, that was awesome. And I just had the aha moment with MyTotem. Because I feel like when a lot of people think of brand, they think of, hey, one time shop of logo and colors, and then that's it. You don't think of all of the design aspect for great content that's professional, and it makes total sense. So thank you for sharing. For any folks that have questions, feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. And it may be better to put them in the chat so not everyone asks. But Ashley, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much. Happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. If there's any questions, feel free to type them in. And if not, we can go to Conrad. Conrad, feel free to get your computer geared up for sharing your screen.
I'm not seeing any, so we can dive in and answer later if we need.
Sounds great. Conrad Cornell of PressSports. Conrad, take it away.
It looks like you might be on mute, Conrad.
Hey guys, sorry. Thanks for the opportunity. Happy to be here. I'm Conrad Cornell, co-founder and CEO of PressSports. We're a social media app for the athletic community. Kind of the problem that we identified, I was a college athlete, played baseball at Mercer University, and I got to the end of my career and I was talking to my longtime best friend, Drew Williams, and we grew up playing baseball together in Atlanta. And we realized we didn't have any of our highlights together in one place. And so it was frustrating that we had this Instagram profile that was going to act as the photo albums of our lives. High chance our kids go back and look at it. And we didn't have any of our, favorite sports memories on there. And both being big athletes, we wished that we had this. And there was no, when we felt uncomfortable self-promoting those athletic achievements on Instagram, there's kind of this negative stigma that surrounds it. And so we realized there needed to be a separate platform that was for, athletic careers, that was career oriented, where you're building a fan base. And the problem kind of mirrors the reason that LinkedIn is successful. despite all adults also having Facebook accounts. Everyone needs a business profile and a social profile. You don't post your family vacation photos on your LinkedIn, and normally you don't post your career-oriented achievements on your Facebook. And so, we set out to create this platform where you could build a fan base and feel comfortable self-promoting these achievements and, solve the problem of there not being any athletes from any level or sport in the world that have an easy to access profile displaying their entire career. So we started building it. We launched it a day after graduation, our senior year, and the MVP was built in India. But, we were able to start getting really high quality athletes on fast. This is Kumar Rocker. He's the, #1 pitcher at Vanderbilt. Eric Gilbert just won the Gatorade Player of the Year. Ellie McKissock is a, Florida volleyball player. And we were getting hundreds and hundreds of these top athletes in the country on. And that was kind of our approach with this. But then we kind of hit a wall before COVID where we had gotten to, 16,000 monthly active users, and the app was crashing every night at the same time at 7 p.m. when a bunch of people got on and it wasn't working. And so our retention was terrible with our new users. And we realized that, we were getting these high value users on, but we weren't retaining them despite them liking the app because it was crashing. So we needed to rebuild it. And so we hit a kind of a streak of luck, and we're able to hire Tyler Drawl and Tom Chernetsky, who were the co-founder and CEO and the CTO that was brought on of Ncaa. And they rebuilt the app from scratch during COVID. And we also brought on Matthew Stewart out of Deloitte Merger and Acquisition Technology Consulting to kind of help us out with a bunch of different stuff that we weren't good at. And so we really kind of brought a really high quality team together right there before everyone was in quarantine. And we've been able to make serious improvements pretty fast. The new rebuild of the app that we launched, version 5.0, was launched on June 7th, I think. And it's a little bit more similar to the user experience of TikTok, where it's curated content feeds. We work really closely with our users to build a better experience for them, a better new user experience right off the gate to help with retention. And we see that in the data. We put our athlete rankings, which are computer generated based on the amount of engagement that each profile generates inside the app. And we've now separated it into not only sport by class, but also by position. And we're getting ready to do state here shortly. But the data kind of shows the new app has been super successful. Our likes per day has jumped from 500 to 25,000. Yesterday was the biggest day ever at 42,000 views per day. Has jumped from around 10,000 to 110,000. Yesterday was our best day ever at 170,000 views per active user. When they get on, they were watching 6 videos. Now they're watching 40. During the middle of the pandemic, we went from a 234 average posts per day. This MVP data from the old app is in February and March, in the first half of March leading up to the pandemic when it went on. And then, we were averaging 689. Yesterday, we had over 1,000 posts for the second straight day. And, our retention and time spent on the app has jumped too. We went from 3 minutes to 5.5 minutes per session, and our DAU to MAU jumped from, so that's daily active users to, as a percentage of monthly active users, jumped from 12% to 20. And yesterday we were at 24%. So all this stuff, it's getting better, and we're making progress, and it's really exciting. And our retention has jumped the most, which is the most important, because this is what we needed to see before we were ready to really start trying to grow. After 5 weeks, we were retaining 14% of users in the old app, and now we're retaining over 40%. And obviously, we still want that to improve. We want to get up to 50, 60, 70. But we just got to keep pushing and keep making the adjustments that our users are telling us to, and I'm confident we'll be able to get there. So our kind of approach to user growth is we have these top-notch athletes. We have over 2,500 Division I committed athletes on the app. We call them high-value users, HVUs. Sometimes we mix in VIPs, but basically it's a pro, college, or top-ranked high school athlete, as well as a team profile. So shortly here, in the next 3 to 6 months. We already have team profiles, but we're going to be rolling out the feature of associated rosters on team profiles. So you'll be able to, click into a team profile, follow the team. Anytime a player on the team posts, the team can pin it to their page. You can click into the players' rosters, and those are super valuable. Those team profiles and those high-value users bring fans onto the app. And the fan user persona is something we're putting a lot of emphasis on, because when UGA football creates a profile and Alabama football, which we have, over 15 Alabama football players actively using the app right now, that comes with a massive fan base if executed properly. And so we want to be able to create a great experience for those fans with fan forums, with, better ways to connect with the athletes that they look up to. And those fans are who these sponsors are going to want to reach. So those fans will bring the sponsors, and the sponsors, are going to want to sponsor the high value users posts, in a little bit different model to how Instagram is, where the athlete or the team would just set their price, and the sponsor would pay it, and they would have their icon watermarked on each of the posts for the duration of the contract. And I have a little demo here that you guys can, so this is it. So if a sponsor were to sponsor an individual or a team, and if they sponsor a team, it would go on the entire associated rosters post for the duration of the contract. It would be right here with a click through to their website. So in the context of a high school team, those donations, when you donate for a scoreboard spot, or a sideline banner or a game day pamphlet spot, you're really doing it as, to help out. It's a 501c3 tax write-off, and you could funnel those through the app and actually see business returns on that and get clicks to your website, instead of just be on the scoreboard that, who knows what's going on from it. So as teams and individuals are generating revenue through simply just posting their highlights that they have on their phone anyway, that for the most part aren't, nothing's happening with them, that will bring more high value users, which will bring more fans and more sponsors. So we've, done a great job laying the foundation. We're continuing to work hard at it, and develop, multiple user growth strategies. We just launched our first influencer ad yesterday and had our biggest day of growth, over 400 new users onto the app, which is exciting. And so I just kind of walked through this with you. The market for sports, sponsorships in sports is huge, over $66 billion spent annually in sports, and sponsorships, 1.24 billion on NCAA sponsorships, which obviously with the new NIL ruling, where college athletes are allowed to get paid for their name, image, and likeliness, that's huge for us. It's monumental. And, we got a lot of the top high school athletes in the country that'll be in college, and that are going to be in college next year. And so we're really excited about it. We're raising $2.5 million in a seed round right now. We're in conversations with a handful of potential leads, trying to nail it down. Taking longer than we would have hoped, but once we figure this lead out, and I think we're close, we will. I think we'll be able to fill out the round pretty easily, but fingers crossed. We have a lot of hard work to do ahead of us. That this money is going to get us 18 months of runway. We're going to be able to expand our technology team, our back-end support for Tom, and an Android front-end app and a web app. Then we're going to have a high school and college outreach team, so sports-specific community leaders. So Drew and I have baseball backgrounds. We have a great volleyball intern who's going to get a full-time position out of college that's in our senior year. And we're going to get football guy, a head of football community, head of basketball community, and a head of the cheerleading community. And we have two of these hires already lined up. We're just waiting to nail down the lead. And then it's going to, the goal is for it to get us to 2 million users and sponsorship revenue, which we think we're a year out of. So that's kind of the quick rundown.
Conrad, that was awesome, and congrats on all the adoption. Those are great signs, and kudos to you and your progress.
Thank you.
If there's any questions, feel free to type it in the chat. and we can go from there. Conrad, one question: what sports are the bread and butter so far, right? So obviously y'all are baseball focused, or that's kind of where your network is. But what any sports that have taken off that are surprising?
Volleyball is by far our most active community per capita.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've got a great, head of the community there, and cheerleading is growing really faster. We just kickstarted the cheerleading initiative about a month back, and it's growing really fast. So we're excited about it.
And is majority high school, college?
It's the vast majority is high school, and specifically the underclassmen, and we're excited about that because they're going to have their whole careers on the app. But we have a lot of college guys on there that use it in post. We're getting more and more pro guys on too, which is cool to see.
Great. Well, Ian of Terra Education. Ian, good catching up the other day. Excited to have you as well, and take it away on more on how you're building your business.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Awesome job to Conrad, and to MyTotem was super cool. I wish I had that when we just started. That would be great, Ashley. So yeah, before I share my screen, my name is Ian Cohen, founder of Terra Education Technologies, and apologies in advance. I'm not the talent that John was referring to, so hopefully I don't deter Govind from coming to Atlanta. So I'm going to share my screen now, make sure I don't show you guys all my passwords, which I've done plenty of times throughout this entire COVID thing. So Terra is ultimately, we're trying to build a planning assistant for every teacher. Now, COVID obviously has shed a lot of light on the education space and how many different challenges there are. So I'm going to speak a little bit to those as I tell you guys our story. But before we do that, just a little bit about me. I'm originally from Philadelphia, came down here to go to Emory a little over 10 years ago. And ever since then, I've been involved in education from a lot of different angles. So I've started as a high school teacher, taught down in South Fulton at a school called Banneker. Is famous because that is where Ludacris went to high school. So what up to Ludacris? And after that, I had an experience of starting a nonprofit in the education space and running that for a few years. I've been on the board of an ed tech company, a charter school, done some education policy. So I've gotten a really great 360 view of the education space. And I think what we need now more than ever is a combination of simplicity and a much, much better design for the users themselves. And so that's what I came into Terra with. And we set out to build something that can really help teachers not only improve their practice, but improve their lifestyle, really. And so for those of you who might have kids, you probably have experienced a little bit of this yourself during COVID. But at the end of the day, the teacher life, it breaks down to three big buckets. We spend most of our time planning. Then obviously at school, we're teaching. And then you're reflecting. And a lot of times that reflection's intangible. It's in your head. But more and more schools are pushing to have explicit reflection, because that's one of the things that really leads to teacher growth. And then it's just this cycle on repeat. You plan, teach, reflect every single day. And from a product perspective and a market perspective, one of the challenges that we've seen through our customer discovery process, that so many tools and platforms are built without trying to replace something, and they end up adding more to a teacher's plate. And teachers are probably the most fickle users I've ever encountered or studied. And so you have to be really, really sensitive to that. And so what Terra does is we help with the how of all this. So how do you plan? How do you teach? How do you reflect? That's really what we set out to do. Because ultimately, how you teach is just as important as what you teach. So if you can be the world's greatest expert at, app development or American history or algebra, but if you can't engage your students, and that's at any age level, even if you're teaching adults, if you can't engage people in a meaningful way, you're going to be out of luck in terms of getting them to the knowledge, skills, and mindsets that you want them to progress to. And I've had the opportunity to facilitate a lot of adult workshops. Same thing goes for there. You've got to have some way to keep it interesting and let people wrestle with the content that you're talking about. So when we think about the specific problem that we're trying to solve, it really comes down to this lesson planning process. And I've included a screenshot here of what I've probably collected over 200 different lesson plan templates, which are really just Microsoft Word or Google Doc templates and tables that schools and districts create and force their teachers to fill out each and every day. Not every school does this, but a lot of them do, especially ones from lower income areas. And it's meant to be a form of accountability. But what it ends up being is extremely tedious. Teachers end up spending hours filling these things out only to turn them in and never get feedback, because it's very hard to scan, as a teacher or a coach, to scan through these documents, pick out things that actually are worthwhile to give feedback on. And secondly, Word documents and Google Docs are completely disconnected to all of the great content that exists out there. COVID has really shown us that there is just an amazing amount of content for educators at every grade level. The challenge isn't the availability, it's the curation of that content. And these documents obviously are not connected to anything that does that. The third thing that happens is it creates a really compliance-driven process within a school building. And so you have teachers not taking the planning piece as seriously because they just need to fill it out, turn it in, and mark that off. I've seen some schools that even grade their teachers on turning these lessons in. And the last thing we want to do is infantilize teachers and treat them like students, because we would never teach them to do that. And so you get a lot of disinvestment, you get a lot of resentment over time, and you don't get any better at teaching. And then the last thing is, with documents, it's really, really challenging to pull out any insights from files full of Word docs or Google Docs. And so that's one of the things, big picture, we think we have a huge opportunity to do. When I show you guys the platform, I'll explain how we're actually able to capture and quantify the different strategies that teachers use throughout their teaching process, which no one else can do right now. And if you're looking at this image and saying, are you kidding me? People are still just filling out Word documents and tables in education. The answer is absolutely yes. The education space, not surprisingly, is a generation behind technology-wise. And that also creates a lot of opportunity to bring some really modern design and sophisticated tools into the fold. So we are live, and I'm going to jump over to the platform now. I'm going to show you just the main part of it to really give you the gist of what makes us different. We are a web app, and we sell directly to schools, which I'll say more in a bit. So this is Michelle Obama's account. Yeah, she's a proud user, so that's cool. I didn't know she was a teacher. But basic thing here is, while you look at this, I want you to really think, okay, this versus a Word document, table, or template. So I'm a teacher, I come in, and the easiest thing to look at this is our lesson canvas, where you're really going to create that learning experience. The easiest way to look at it is into 3 columns. On the left side is where you can change the date of your lesson when you're going to teach it, where you can add in, you can reference the standards and objectives you have for the class. For teachers in K-12, they have to align everything to the state's requirements. And so it's always important to have that right there. And then we put in these different areas where they can take notes about all these different nuances that teachers oftentimes are required to think about. So for instance, if you have students who are at a different level. When I was a teacher, I had one student who was at a 2nd grade reading and writing level, but I was teaching 10th grade world history. And so we call that differentiation. How am I going to teach to her and also teach the other kids in the class? And so here's where I would put notes for that. And then third tab we have over here is for resources. And this is really where coaches and administrators can place, and of course I loaded an example without any, but they can place links to different resources, different open source things, curriculum. Here we've put in the links to entire curriculum for the school that we're working with. And then in the middle is where you're going to build the lesson. And then on the right side is really like the secret sauce of it all. And this is our strategy bank. And so if you're a teacher, a facilitator, what we've done is collected some of the most common ways to engage students and place them in this bank. And there are over 50 different suggestions here. So for instance, if I wanted to have my students do a journal writing exercise, I can click on journal. And the first thing we do is provide a little summary of what a journaling exercise is. We put in slide and handout templates so teachers don't have to recreate that stuff every time. And we also link to a lot of different great resources online that we find about how to do journaling right. There's a funny video in here that I use for our training, and I happen to click on the one that has that, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. We put a little pro tip, but all this is to say, it's one thing to say you want to do a discussion or a journal or a gallery walk or these other things that teachers have heard of. It's a whole nother thing to know how to actually do it. And with all the great content here, we're trying to be the platform that starts curating it for the teacher and their local context. So if I want to do a journaling with my students, all I do is grab it, drag it in, and drop it into my lesson. And then what's super cool is when I come in to add the details, I'll turn this off to show you the full effect here. I set how long it's going to be. Maybe they'll do it in partners. But then I have this blank space to write in the details of how they're actually going to do journaling. And that's nice, but a lot of teachers, especially younger teachers, don't necessarily know how to set that up. And we can nudge them towards best practice by giving them prompts and guides. And so what we've done is we have what we call a SMART guide, where a teacher can check off, are they doing in-person learning? And you see our resources here. And then we have a series of prompting questions that help them set up the activity itself. These are all based off best practices and really save time for teachers just typing, but also remind them to do certain things like checking for understanding and other things like that. And for COVID, what we did was, since we know a lot of folks are going into virtual environments to start school, we've also added in a virtual SMART guide for every strategy. And so now they have 2 ways they can toggle back and forth and really understand how to implement a traditional strategy in a virtual environment. They can add attachments and all that good stuff. And then they build out this lesson, and all they have to do for their school is go back and mark it complete, and then they're ready to go. So they don't have to worry about downloading or uploading files. They don't have to worry about any of that nonsense. You can do observations in here. And so we try to make it a lot easier and faster to make better lessons. So the last thing I want to show you before I cut myself off is the insights I was referring to before. And so when you think about data in the education space, everybody thinks about student test scores, because that is 99% of the data we look at. The trouble with that is that test scores are a lagging indicator. They tell you what happened, but they don't tell you how to change what you do next. And oftentimes, even with state tests, we used to get the results in the middle of the following year. So how does that help anybody? And it certainly doesn't help the teacher understand their practice. There's nothing about the teacher out there. And so what we've done is, let me skip ahead here. We've created what we call teacher stats. And so because the teacher has to input the data that I showed you, what we can do is track, these are the standards they would teach. We can track how much time they spend on each standard, which for teachers is hugely important when it comes to state tests, because certain standards are weighted more than others. We can also show them how are they breaking down their classroom. So for instance, this teacher, Miss Bradley, does 40% worksheets. Maybe that's good, maybe it's not. We have to look at her test scores to really get the full picture now, but at least she has a way to reflect on this, and her coach does as well. We can look at grouping. So you get the idea. You can compare teachers. You can put in observation ratings, all that kind of stuff. But this really has an opportunity to not only enhance that reflection piece that I referenced before, but also start to really upend the professional development space as well, which is a $10 billion industry that over 75% of teachers say they do not get what they need from professional development. And it's because it's not targeted. We don't have the richness of data like this to understand what teachers really need and what's actually useful. And so to close it out here, just a little bit about where we've come from. So on the left side is really what our business model is. So we sell directly to schools and to districts. We also sell to teacher organizations like Teacher America, which I'll mention in a second, or other training organizations or graduate schools, things like that. And then we will eventually be releasing a paid subscription for teachers themselves, individuals. Right now, due to COVID, and because it's early and we really want to make sure that we provide a great subscription experience, we are making the individual teacher subscription free for the entire year. So any teacher from anywhere in the US can hop on and use this to help plan their lessons. And for us, ultimately, not only is it a great way to support teachers, but naturally we hope it leads to more feedback, more leads, and that kind of thing. And I came up with this idea back in the fall of 2018. And then we did a beta test at the beginning of last school year, starting in August, which was, I don't have a technology background, so this was a wild ride of learning. And fast forward about 9 or 10 months, and we were able to land a national partnership with Teach for America to outfit all 3,000 of their new teachers across the country with Ncaa, and we also took part in their summer training, and that went extremely well. And naturally, these 3,000 teachers are going to schools all over the country, and has already led to new leads for us. And so things are going well. COVID definitely threw us some curveballs, but like everybody else, we just work hard to adapt. And as we're onboarding now, actually right after this call, I have another training to lead with a local school here in Atlanta. But we'll be putting together our fundraising for a seed round pretty soon. And that's Ncaa. So we're excited about where we're going to take this. There's a lot of possibilities in the education space and to help teachers.
Ian, thank you so much. That was fantastic, and well said in terms of the problem that you're solving. So are there any questions for Ian regarding Ncaa? And I have one, Ian. So when you sell to business or to schools, is it a department basis? Is it per school, or is it per overarching institution?
Yeah, it depends. It is primarily to the school itself. A lot of districts in the country are now moving to what's called a charter system approach, which is not to be confused with charter schools. A charter system just pushes more purchasing autonomy down to the principal. And that's actually long-term. That's another reason why this space continues to be fragmented and not overly developed, is because it's hard to get the big customers. But we sell directly to schools. And the one thing I forgot to mention during the demo was that everything on that screen I showed everybody is completely customizable. So every field, every activity, and what that allows us to do is really adapt to whatever the school methodology and philosophy is. But yeah, we sell directly to schools, and our hope is to grow within charter networks, and obviously eventually sell to districts as well, as people come around and learning the value of what we have to offer.
That's great. Well, one of the most fun things about Atlanta Startup Convos is the 15 to 30 minutes afterwards, where there's normally a little bit of coffee that's warm, and everyone catches up. That's one of the biggest bummers about doing it on Zoom. Govind, I'm going to send you a chat with my email, and we can sync up. I know Durante just asked, do schools pay to brand in the app? Ian said, good question, not yet. But so want to wrap up Atlanta Startup Convos. We do have the next one already set, which is September 16th, and we have 2 companies so far. So a third one is coming to you shortly, and I'm excited to share those 2 companies. It'll be fun as well. And I really want to thank everybody, Ashley, Ian, Conrad, for getting up and sharing your product and your story. So thank you all for coming, and hopefully see you September 16th.